Record number of indigenous candidates take part in Brazil elections.
Here's a summary of the article.
As the first wave of COVID infections ravaged Manaus in Brazil, forcing residents to bury their loved ones in mass graves, Vander Ortega Vitoto toiled away in minimal protective equipment, trying to keep the virus at bay in the Amazon city's long-neglected indigenous neighborhood. Attacks on indigenous people and their land have escalated under President Jair Bolsonaro, who has dismantled indigenous protection frameworks and emboldened land grabbers and other criminals. It was while documenting this persecution that the indigenous expert Bruno Pereira and the British journalist Dom Phillips were murdered in June. A record 181 candidates who self-identify as indigenous are registered to take part in Brazil's 2 October general election, a 36% increase in 4 years. Until now, Brazil has elected just 2 indigenous representatives to Congress, Mario Juruna, from the Xavante people, in 1982 and Jonia Wapichana, from the Amazonian state of Roraima, in 2018. We don't participate in decision-making spheres because the state has always said that they are no place for indigenous people, no place for women. But I have come to understand that it is exactly where we belong, says Vander. Kleber Karipuna, an executive coordinator of the Articulation of Indigenous Peoples of Brazil, the country's largest indigenous organization, says that Wapichana's work defending indigenous issues in Congress convinced the indigenous movement of the importance of increasing its representation in political spheres. We understand today that political representation is essential to guarantee not just the rights, but the continued existence of indigenous peoples, says Samara Patix, a member of the Patix people in Bahia State and the first indigenous woman to work in the Superior Electoral Court's Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Political representation is also about reclaiming Brazil's indigenous identity. Just 0.5% of Brazilians identified as indigenous in the 2010 census.
This post received a score of 5,300, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Good, I imagine they are sick and tired of what's been happening over the years and have finally organized to play their game against them.
Greater than indigenous candidates. Tucker Carlson was claiming these indigenous candidates were far-left socialist communists, seeking to destroy the white race. Lol. Even in other countries he is trying to save whatever is left of the Nazi ideology.
Destroy the white race. Good. The indigenous should recover what is theirs.
Unfortunately, Tucker Carlson, like all the white supremacists and neo-Nazis, invent conspiracy day after day about how there is a secret plot to wipe out the white race. He isn't too fond on the idea of blaming the Jews, although he has tried with suggesting we stop funding Israel in the past. The one race he protects and defends with every bone in his body that is not white are the Afghanistan people, but not for the reason you may think. He literally said that Afghanistan has a culture with a race of people whiter than most Americans, and that keeps feminism in its place and forces women to obey their husband. It is a culture worth keeping and protecting from Western feminists. End quote. People wrongfully assume Tucker Carlson is on the Kremlin payroll. No, he is not getting money from Putin, and he doesn't work for Putin, but he knows that Putin funds all the neo-Nazis, trolls and militias on websites like Breitbart, which is to the right of Hitler.
Is really that hard to wish for him to die? Most of the USA will celebrate the death of a major misinformation spreader.
I hope he dies sooner than later. The world will be a better place without these type of batshit conservatives. Even to this day, Tucker has gotten bolder in claiming COVID vaccine was the reason hundreds of thousands of Americans died. In the early days he tried to not make it sound too obvious while secretly killing of many old people who watch Fox News and take medical advice from these lunatics suggesting to drink horse dewormer than take a vaccine. Meanwhile, these same Fox employees were all vaccinated. The guy suggests time and time again that the COVID vaccines are not vaccines and is a way to sterilize the white race.
COVID-19 vaccines are sterilizing. Please, the declining fertility rate of the whites will do the job for us. No requirement to waste money on that.
Take back the Amazon. Indigenous should have more political clout worldwide.
The majority of Brazilians have indigenous ancestry. It's more of a matter of stopping exploitative capitalism. Rich landowners want to get richer at any cost, nature be damned. They clear the forest to obtain even more land for cattle farming.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.